the bare minimum, I think, is so easy. And for me, my bare minimum was to beat everybody. Whether it's by...
Let's go.
It's the name of the game, dude. It's just like, it's not that hard. Like...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Hustle Up podcast, dedicated to those who show up early and stay late, those who have side hustles and side hustles for their side hustles. Last episode, we talked about 24 hours being in the day. Only 8 are generally devoted toward work. Another 8 are typically devoted toward sleep. There are 8 free hours in which you can get after it. And if you sacrifice on sleep, there's quite a few more. My name is Clint Crow.
I'm Jonathan Hessing.
And today we have on
Kydo Spector.
Kydo Spector is the man, the myth, the legend. He owns multiple businesses, which we'll talk about. He's a good friend of Jonathan Hessing. How long have y'all two known each other?
Man, a long time. He recruited me into the fraternity. So how we talk about how it always comes back to the fraternity. He was the person who brought me in. And really, you know what? I'll be honest. I'll be a little transparent. He has brought me to a lot of firsts. You know how in the car on the way over here, we're saying how we're the first to things. We're the first to entrepreneurship. We're the first to certain, mind expanding things, whether it be beating the cold or whether it be meditation, different things like that.
Sure.
When we're also the first to do a podcast. Well, Mo has been the first for a lot of things that have led me to be able to be a pioneer in those capacities.
A trendsetter.
A trendsetter himself. So it's
More
awesome
guider.
to have him here. Yeah, guider knows how to place pieces where they need to be, right? So it's been interesting, and I know that you have recently. I guess let's just cut to the meat of it. I mean, you graduated from college with what? What was your degree?
I got 2 degrees, one in accounting and one in finance.
All right, so from right there, like, what made you want to go for 2 degrees as opposed to 1?
Well, to be honest, I've just kind of lived life as I go. Never really had someone guiding me. I've always been on my own, and I just kind of figured out as I went on. And I started off in management. And then some econ professor noticed me and said, "Why are you spending your time in management? You belong in finance." So I took finance. I got my first job out of college. Then I got denied because I couldn't pass a background check. So I freaked out. Stayed back in school, and I got my accounting degree out of that. Realized that I could pass a background check during accounting, so I just became an accountant.
Okay, and that's what you do now?
That's currently what I do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, when you say that you didn't have any guidance growing up, like, can you expand on that? What kind of obstacles did you face that made you the leader, the trendsetter that you are now?
Well, probably just making mistakes. Like I said, I was always looking for leadership. I looked at my father, and my father left me early. So I kind of had to learn on my own. And of course, I always had my mother, but it's kind of it was a different perspective. I love my dad. I looked at my dad for the leadership role. And my mother, I guess I just didn't take serious. I'm not really sure. Love my mom. But when it came to those things or the guidance that I needed, she wasn't able to provide that. And so from then on, I latched on to anyone that would teach me, which at the time were basically coaches for sports, because I was very gifted at sports, and they would take an interest in me because they would want to train me and talk to me. And so that's what kind of guided me through the earlier parts of my life. And then throughout high school, I had mentors here and there, but honestly, what guided me were mistakes. I mean, I shouldn't have even graduated high school. I was living in my car to make sure that I finished.
What was that experience like?
You just live it. You just survive. I mean, I've
How
never
would you
really thought
shower
about it.
and stuff like?
So it was crazy because I was part of the cross country team. So I would pretend like I was running in the mornings, and I would go on like 5-mile runs in the morning. But I would get there before everyone, and I would shower in the locker room. And so I had my stuff all in there.
How long did this go on for?
That went on for a few months. So there was a period where I went to jail. So between graduation, so yeah, I'd probably say 3 months. 3 months, just surviving out there.
So but that's crazy. So you were in jail, you were living out your car. Like, what made you shift your mindset to even want to be in like financing or accounting? Or had you always been there and maybe just hit some obstacles along the way? Or was there like a point where you said, this is what I want to do with my career?
No, I've never really... Well, I guess if we were going to talk about what I wanted to do, I think it was sports medicine at the time.
Sports and medicine?
Yeah. So that was to survive. I think my goal was always to be the man of the house. Still is. To take care of my mother. Like I said, we always talk, provide for her. That's really the only goal in my mind right now. And I've just kind of done what I've needed to do to not only learn, enjoy life, and make sure that I'm still ahead of the game. I always, if you want to compare apples to apples, usually the way I would put it is by my age, I compare to the income level of my age and see where everyone else is at. And so I've just made sure that I'm above average, and that's all I've ever done. I have had fun. Like you said, I was a part of fraternity, acted a fool, went crazy, but at the same time, on the back end, I was getting, I think I graduated with a 3.6, 3.7. Always had a job, always working 30, 40 hours a week, always surviving on my own. And so I kind of just look for mentors who got in my way and make mistakes. Honestly, mistakes have gotten me more than anything. I've just never known how to quit. I don't really know what that means. Like, I've had my times where I might sit down and say, what am I doing?
Right.
But that usually lasts about a day.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, but I think like that kind of awareness is what's important, right? Because you can make mistakes all the time, but if you don't reflect on them and learn from them, or you have some kind of like emotional attachment to them, you're not going to be able to learn from the mistakes and drive them forward.
And you mentioned mentorship too. It sounds like you had sounding board or set people to pass these ideas through and test ideas. Is that accurate?
Well, first off, let me get back to you about the lessons that taught me weren't really the mistakes that I was making. I think it was more of the people that were affected by my decisions that really made a turning point.
Interesting.
So I think it's more emotional. The lessons were more emotional than they were by actual mistakes. Like some of the things that I did, I still don't see wrong, other than the fact of I need to make sure that whatever I do doesn't affect the wrong people.
Right, it hurt X,
Yeah.
Y, and Z people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to your point, never really had, I've always looked for it, but I never really had someone like, hey, I'm going to coach you through life. It was more of like my life lessons, and then I would take any information that was given to me. For example, I'll never forget Professor Goodwin. When he came up to me and he knew who I was, knew my grades, told me that, I was way too smart for management. This guy I'd never spoken to. I'd just gone in, taken his test, listened, asked questions, and he knew so much more about me than I knew about myself. And from this guy's comment, I went from being a management major to going to finance. Like something simple as that. I would grasp any bit of information.
So you say you probably, to compensate for the friction that's held you back, you've always just been an overachiever to keep momentum and drive things going, and with mentors around you, with learning from your mistakes, with just overcoming these obstacles, and you've always wanted to be a little bit better than average, a little above average.
That's all you have to do. The bare minimum, I think, is so easy. And for me, my bare minimum was to beat everybody. Whether it's by...
Let's go.
It's the name of the game, dude. It's just like, it's not that hard. Like,
no, I'm with you. Who's the Oracle guy? CEO of Oracle.
I know who. Larry. Not Larry Page. It is Larry.
Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison. So Larry Ellison had shared a similar mindset. He had gone to Japan, came back, and all he wanted to do was, when you go into a war, you don't want market share, you want market domination. And so he came back, and that's when his whole crazy, all this crazy story about Oracle happened, which he went in, sold them all V1. V1 fell drastically behind production, and instead of going in and apologizing, he went in and sold them all V2. And that's like one of my favorite stories of Larry Ellison. It's crazy. It's cool that you have that kind of mentality. Since we're on the topic, would you consider yourself an entrepreneur? Why or why not?
No, I won't consider myself an entrepreneur because I still live in that 9-to-5 lifestyle. I chose that life, and that's what I currently do.
Define 9-to-5 lifestyle.
I would say I have a job. I have a job that requires me to be in the office from 9 to 5. Not that's theoretical. I mean, I go in at 7, leave at 4, or sometimes, so that varies. But
right.
I would say the typical
minimum 40-hour week.
Yeah, 40-hour work week. I would say. I do have all the other things that I do on the side, but again, I would have to consider those hobbies. Because let's say we consider how much time you spend in a day or how much time you spend in a week, the majority of it goes to the 9 to 5.
Do those hobbies make you money?
Yeah.
Do you invest money into those hobbies?
Absolutely.
How would you define, we defined a 9 to 5, but how would you define entrepreneurship or being an entrepreneur? What does that look like to you?
To me, when I see an entrepreneur, I see someone that goes in and goes all the way in. Someone who's like, okay, I'm going to build something at whatever cost. and makes the necessary sacrifices. Versus me, I have made a very conservative sacrifice because my goal, again, is not to be super rich, super wealthy. My goal right now is to take care of my mom. And to be able to do that, I have to keep this 9-to-5 lifestyle to guarantee that. Not to, if I was an entrepreneur, I'd say, you know what, Mom, no doubt I'm going to go pursue this, and I'm going to be super rich. I'm going to take care of you. And that, I would consider that an entrepreneur.
So what practically speaking, with your situation in mind, which break it down before you answer this, but with your situation in mind, what's that threshold because I don't see things as a switch. I see everything as a spectrum. So from 9 to 5 to full on, as you define it, entrepreneur life, like at what is that threshold where that will slide across, imagine a line with 2 endpoints where that spectrum will slide across to the side where you're more entrepreneur than you are 9 to 5.
When my income is majority my entrepreneurship.
When the side hustle becomes the main hustle?
Yep.
Okay. So what are the KPIs on that?
What do you mean?
So what are like the key performance indicators that'll say this is at this moment financially, at this moment like long-term and short-term?
You could look at those paychecks for measurement.
And that's what I do.
In which case, which direct deposit was larger this week?
So it's a completely financial all right, so what do you do? Like, what is your side hustles?
So I have my investment fund, I have an Amazon business, and I have more of like Shopify e-commerce business, and now we're starting the esports agency, and overall we have the New Rich brand, and I think New Rich accounting as well. So we do accounting, and now we're starting to offer financial planning, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much.
What got you into esports? What is this?
I've gotten into esports more of like becoming an agency. I would love to start sponsoring gamers. It's become a huge industry, and now big players are moving into the market. So I knew that was going to be big early on. I'm always talking about it. But now that I'm seeing major key players moving their investments into these agencies, when you see Bloomberg talking about that's where you should invest your money, it's driven me to start putting more time into that.
How do you make money off of a sponsorship?
So what I'm going to be doing is providing a list of services. The end goal is to be able to tell a gamer, hey, you've got talent, come join this team, we'll take care of everything, and then turn them profitable. So what that means is building a service around this player where we can get sponsorships, we can do his campaign marketing, we bring viewers to his channel, we provide a platform where people can come and view these players, but also create a team around it, build a New Rich team, and ultimately scale it from there.
So if you're disgusting at a video game, could this be like getting picked up by a music agency? Like similar to how a rapper, hey, come join our team, we'll take care of everything?
Think of a record label and think of an artist.
Yeah.
An artist is there to create, record label is there to make the artist famous. And that's what we're there to do.
So what do you do? Because you got an interesting dynamic where you don't consider yourself an entrepreneur, yet you've got these 6 ventures that are all wrapped into one, the New Rich brand on the side. So what is your daytime job like? So from our conversations, my perception of it is you pretty much just go to different companies that are already established and help them build infrastructures that are automated.
Yep.
And then you either stay with the company or you leave the company depending on what they provide for your next steps to be.
Correct. So like I said, I have fun with my job. Don't get me wrong. I'm doing what I want to do, or else I wouldn't be doing it. I just chose this industry because I saw the accounting industry is very far behind other technological companies. As far as technological advances, accounting is very behind.
It is. I was just going to agree because I know that financial technology is always doing crazy things with all these algorithms, and it just seems that we were talking about this on the phone the other day. It just seems that what they teach you in accounting is in college just isn't applicable anymore because of the resources. So they need people like you who understand these softwares and technologies to come in and automate everything and make it ultimately more efficiency so the company gets a higher ROI.
That's correct. So the accounting principles still apply. The normal accounting principles don't really change. There are laws and things that go into place that make it different. But what I really do and what I really focus on is the automation side. Like you said, I noticed that people are still doing accounting with pen and paper. People are still.
Do you see this?
I see it on a daily basis. On a daily basis, there is a floor below me that are still operating on pen and paper.
That's mind-boggling.
It's crazy. I'm dealing with an audit right now, and it's a Colombian-based company. They have the Colombian side. I'm getting audited by Colombia, and I'm getting audited by the U.S. So the U.S., they've got all this advanced drop boxes where they've requested a file, I send it goes away.
Drag and drop.
Drag and drop. Colombia, they have had to fly up here. I've had to sit down with these people. They're sitting there with just checking things off, wanting me to scan and send them things.
That's crazy.
It's the worst audit I've ever been through. But
the worst.
Literally the worst.
That's crazy. So taking the principles that you learned through this, how do you So I guess what I'm trying to do is I want to hit the person who works the 9 to 5 right now, who listens to this podcast and takes in information and wants to go do that thing that they want to do, but they don't even know how to start because they're working 40 hours a week. They're making sure that their mom is set. They have all these things that they need to do that keeps them in this, you called it something, that feedback loop.
Yeah,
feedback
feedback loop.
Yeah, it keeps you in there. So how do you automate your life based off of your finance and accounting principles to be able to even start not 1, not 2, but 5 or 6 side ventures and be able to keep them all? Because you have traction in all those, right?
Yeah.
So these aren't just ideas. You have actually made way in all these ventures while maintaining a 40-hour week job.
Yep. And before you answer, I want to highlight the fact that as we're recording this, it's a Friday night after 5.
Yep.
We're here recording this podcast, and after which he's going to go back to work in the office right next door and continue working, not because he has to, but because he has other ventures he wants to work on. That's very cool. What drives you? How do you do that?
So it's a few different ways. It's a lot of learning process. But one thing that I've learned is, like you said, your feedback loop. You're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
And those environments are the environments that hold you back the most. So you have to be able to exit that environment and understand that what they do doesn't mean that that's what you need to do. You don't need to follow the exact same trends that everyone else is following. And like you said, I'm here on a Friday. It takes sacrifice. But I see it as a short-term sacrifice for long-term gains. We're in here, we're going to be doing this for a couple months. You're going to see traction. You've already seen traction. But as long as we keep going and we keep grinding, everything will continue to grow. And in the long term, now we have time for adventures, to go out and achieve different experiences, things like that.
Plug your quote.
Live like others so you can live like others. No, live like others won't so you can live like others can't.
Boom.
Yeah,
there it is.
And that's it. But what I've started to do now is I've learned that my time in the office is a certain amount of time. I try to keep it within those 40 hours and even less. Because the more that you work, the less that you make. I have a set salary, I have a set bonus, where if I spend 40 hours there, I make the same amount. If I spend 80 hours there, I still make the same amount. So once I started learning that, and I said, okay, I've got to increase the amount of money that I have to make per hour. So I've got this all down. I'm a big numbers guy, so I've got it all set out. I know exactly how much I need to make per hour for the rest of my life, or to get to whatever I want to go. I know how much money I'm going to have at 29, at 30, at 31.
So you've made financial projections for your life.
The whole thing. Yeah, it's all done. So I've kind of set that and automated the back end of my life, and that's what I would suggest for everyone, is just start automating or outsourcing.
Is that so practically speaking, is that automating bill pay? Automating
everything.
What? Give examples.
Exactly.
Do you have a budget or forecast in Excel or Sheets or something that we could throw up on the blog to help users?
So
we'll obviously clear your data out, but the formulas?
Yeah, so I have something that's very rough because I don't provide it for people.
Yeah.
So I have it for me and I can read it, but remember, I'm I can read Excel, I see it, and it makes sense. But we could sit down and I could actually make it to where
let's create something.
It's already done.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is put in your salary info, and it will populate basically your expenses for the year. But you do have to the thing is you have to put in your time into it.
Yeah.
I've got figured out how much I'm going to spend on cleaning supplies, how much I'm going to spend on travel, how much I'm going to spend on gas, how many miles to and from I go to work. I've got
Do you
it
have
all.
those currently worked out as a percentage of your income or as a number?
Correct. So, not that as percentage of income. I've got those worked out to the number.
Yeah.
But like I have a percentage of my investment. So
Yeah.
32% of my income goes directly into my investment accounts, into my startups. I've got it all, like I said, automated. My paycheck, whatever I get to me personally in my name in my personal bank account is very small.
Yeah.
Just enough to pay for groceries and rent. The rest is all in the companies. All like a certain amount, like 32% goes into New Rich Investment Fund, which then gets diverted into other separate, different, diversified fund portfolios. So yeah, I've got all that. I've all got all of that done. So now when I go home, I don't have to think about any of that. And I'm able to focus on new things like, all right, what do we need to do next? And I've also gotten rid of that mentality of go to work 9 to 5, then I got to go home and do this and go do this. I've just incorporated a schedule where every hour of the day, I know what I should be doing. And so even when I'm at the office, I'm still doing stuff for New Rich, and they don't care because I'm a high performer. I'm still, like I told you, I just have to be one step ahead of everyone else. And in my company, in a typical culture environment or corporate environment, it's not very hard to stay ahead of the average person.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Tell me one thing. I'm gonna divert this a little bit, but it's just so intriguing. Why do you not own a bed? Why do you not sleep on a bed?
Stay focused. There's multiple reasons. I started off because I had back problems from rugby.
A bed or a mattress?
A bed. He has given up his bed and a mattress.
No bed and no mattress.
Yeah, it's
What do you sleep in?
on the ground.
In a sleeping bag or something?
No, I've got someone asked me that the other day actually. Just a blanket and a sheet over that.
You sleep on the blanket and use the sheet, or you sleep on the ground and use the blanket?
I sleep. All right, so I've got like this comforter. Then I've got this like I think it's like a 1,000 count sheet that I just love. So comfortable.
And let me say this. I've been to his apartment. It's a nice apartment across, next to the Battery, which is where that Atlanta
He's not
Braves play.
slumming it.
No,
Yeah.
this is a complete by choice decision
Well, my bed's
that he's
on the wall.
making.
My bed's like I literally put it up against the wall.
He put his bed away.
Yeah.
He put his bed away, and he's about to tell you why he did that.
Like I said, there's multiple reasons. First, I started off with my back, and I read that was good for you, so I said I'll try it out.
To sleep on the floor was good for your back?
Yes.
I've also read that.
Interesting. Okay.
Um,
Because it keeps it perfectly.
I couldn't tell you. I just like from everything that I read was like a positive. So I was like, you know what? Give it a shot.
Did you read Inner Engineering?
I'm not sure.
Side Guru.
I'm not sure.
Sod Guru rep sleeping on the floor too.
Really? Yeah. A lot of apparently Buddhists recommend it.
Yeah.
But again, no data. I was just like, you know what? Let's try it out. Scientifically, it makes sense. So
Yeah.
So I did it. Worst month of my life. But after that, now I don't even want to really sleep on a bed. Like it just doesn't feel right. But also to stay focused. So my biggest distraction is girls, females.
Yeah.
You know, like that is my favorite
We're
thing to
all-
do.
we're
I think-
all guilty of that,
yeah. My favorite thing to do is just talk to females.
So you put your bed up.
You can't bring a girl home to no bed.
What's up, baby?
Yeah, you can't do it.
You
You
did
do it. You just can't.
No. The floor is. Just sit down real quick.
You did say that the two biggest things you learned was being a product of your environment and making the ultimate sacrifices. And sounds like you figured out what was a product of your environment and you made the ultimate sacrifice. I get that. Like you got to have a 9-to-5 job and then work on a few different ventures. You got to be a freakazoid, for lack of better terms. And to be a freakazoid, you have to do freakazoid things. On our last podcast, we talked about Wim Hof and how he's a freakazoid. You know Wim Hof well.
Yeah.
And how
Icon.
exactly. How he's disrupting what's biologically possible with your body.
The scientists are trying to experiment on him and see what's
proving
weird.
them all wrong.
Then look, it's the power of my mind.
Right, and it's just crazy. So I get it. Do you do other things like that? Like, are you? I'm a cold shower guy. Are you in cold showers?
So I used to do cold showers, but it also made me appreciate warm showers so much more. And I also realized how much thinking I get done in the shower. Like I will sit there and when I'm in the warm, It numbs my body, so it numbs that sense. I'm not tasting anything. So it numbs all your other senses. You're not distracted with sight. So I'm able to just clear, like in the morning when I take a shower, I take a warm shower, preferably. I'm almost hot at this point. And I just go. I let my mind just race and figure out what I'm going to do today.
What are some things that you think about? Like, what are you going to do today? Like, how do you think about that?
So I immediately think of my vision board. And I'm like, all right, that's what you're focused on. Or I'll look at my to-do list because I have a whiteboard on my wall and I can just picture, all right, what did I put on there? And then I say, okay, now I've got to get out of the shower because I love being in the shower. I could be in there an hour.
It's therapeutic.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. But so I'm like, all right, I'm going to count down from 10. I usually start counting down. And then I said, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? And I'm going to drive to work. I'm going to take a nap in my car. Then I'm going to get back up and I'm going to go read the morning brew. And then I'm going to putter for about an hour. So I'm going to read all the articles, look at my stock picks, look at my investments, make sure everything's okay. And then boom, it's just like fuel. Slowly just fuels my day. Before you know it, I've knocked out all the work that I need to do. And before you know it, I'm working on New Ridge things. Before you know it, I'm leaving at 4 o'clock. And then I come home, then just get ready for the gym. And then once that's over, it's more free time. But lately I've found myself more excited to come home and work on more New Ridge things. So I'm even getting more done.
I've read many times before that billionaires and successful millionaires even wake up 3 hours before the first thing that they have to do. Yeah, it sounds like you get up pretty early. Are you also on that 3 hour train?
So I didn't know it was a 3 hour train.
Yeah.
I did listen to a Bezos speech, and he did say something about putter time in the mornings. And I said, you know what? I need to try that because it's so hard to just go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And so I started waking up 30 minutes early and just like sitting there. I would just lay there and just let my mind go. And slowly that's developed. And now I'm waking up at 4:30 and I'm trying to get to work so I can take a 15-minute nap, digress. And then boom, I just go into work and just start sitting in the office. I'm ready to go, fully energized.
You're getting up at 4:30 a.m. to get in by 7.
Yeah.
Some days, most days.
No, so now I get up by 4:30. I get there probably like 6:15, and now I'll take a 15-minute nap. So I'll be in the office now at 6:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that just gives me more. Like I said, I don't see work and then New Ridge. I see as today's another day. Let's maximize it.
Hours.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So how important is, because I know Clint's been on it, months longer than I have. I'm new to the fitness journey, right? How important is a solid regimen of going to the gym, and how does one like you even do? Because I think with a really good market for this particular podcast is that 9 to 5 person that wants to do their own thing and eventually, make their own thing their main thing. Like you were saying, like that could be the threshold, right? So how does one incorporate fitness into that, and how important is it to do it? Or is it important?
So I will say that it's been easier for me because I've been doing it my entire life. And when I saw, like I said, I've always had to maintain a certain level above where I think everyone else is. And when I see everyone else my age out of shape, not going to the gym, not watching their health, I see it as like, okay, now I have another leg up. But I've just been doing it my entire life. And recently, because of my back, I took 4 months off and I said, I'm not going to be allowed to work out, which is the longest I've ever gone since middle school of like actual exercise. And I noticed the impact that it had on me, so I'll never go back to doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was, your energy's draining, you're in a worse mood. You're not able,
there's a fog. There's a brain fog that occurs.
It's a stress reliever that I didn't realize was such a big impact on me.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
Huge stress reliever. And I realized I would get flustered more often. And luckily I'm capable of seeing those things and like, okay, why am I getting flustered? And I was like, you know what? Like the only thing that you've really changed is your exercise.
Yeah, I always heard that working out is like you're literally working things out.
Yep.
Like it's just working, all the negativity is just working out of your system. And that is something, since I've been on this fitness journey for probably about a month now, where I'm like intently focusing on eating cleaner, going to the gym 7 a.m. every morning. And not only, I agree with you in all those capacities, like not only has it given me that clarity that's removed that fog, and I know you're very similar, but the energy throughout the day now is just fucking insane.
It's
like,
hype.
yeah, I just don't know, like, it's crazy. It's something that's not even fathomable, I feel like.
And if you feel like an animal when you work out, then you will feel like an animal after you work out. It bleeds into the way that you talk to people, into the way that you hold yourself and present yourself. It's just it's a different way of life. It's a better way of life.
Absolutely. You know what? And I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast once where he was talking about how if you can put yourself through shitty situations like sleeping on the floor intentionally, like taking cold showers, and you don't just essentially wait for the storm to pass, but you learn how to play in the rain, you start to take it for what it is and just enjoy that you're being disciplined, like be sadistic towards yourself, right? Then the things that are uncalled for that happen throughout the day don't irritate you as much. When that person cuts you off, it's all right, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That dude needed that.
Exactly,
That guy needed
exactly. And so there's a crazy element of disciplinary things that you do to yourself, like again, the examples would be taking a cold shower, sleeping on the floor, a regimen of going to the gym, eating cleaner if that's a big change for you. There's an element there that just helps you because you're more disciplined. You get less agitated, you get less angry, and that was something because I think that's something we all deal with, especially as being entrepreneurs, especially wanting to always be one above the average, is your emotions and dealing with them and stuff like that. And I tend to get angry quick sometimes, right? And so I've noticed that, and since I heard that on that podcast, conceptualized that way, it's been crazy. It's just like stay disciplined and you're less emotional. And I was like, wow. So I don't know, just had that thought that tied into all these things we're talking about, having a regimen, going to the gym, and why that these things that perceivably take up more hours really save you what your main goal is.
It's really what you look for in life. So for me, the three things are mind, body, spirit. And I'm just constantly trying to improve all three of those things, right? So, health, obviously I go to the gym. I try to eat healthier. I'm not the healthiest person, but I'm far healthier than I was.
Better than average?
Yeah, better than average, of course. But I'm far better than I was 5 years ago, when we were living together in college. I was eating Taco Bell, Wendy's every day. Hot dogs all day, like the sandwiches.
But that was part of but you know what? Even living with you, that was part of your hustle, bro. You were working a good job better, one job better than what everyone else was working. You had that money, yet you were eating sandwiches and hot dogs and chips every day to keep saving. And it's like, those are the things that, I don't know, I think this is a really interesting episode that we're having. That's why I keep coming back to it, is because, you and I have been since we've been able to work full-on entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We've never been on the fence trying to figure out how to prioritize a life because we've never had to. And I speak on behalf of myself. I personally always had a safety net where if I fell, I was going to be caught by something. Whether it was move home to my parents' house and figure out how to build a life from there, I always had to have a safety net, so I was always able to dream as big as possible and move that way. And I can you attest to that too? I mean, are you?
Absolutely. No,
yeah,
absolutely.
And so it's interesting, like your perspective, and that's a beautiful market to hit, is that person who doesn't have that safety net, who doesn't have the means to just full on commit. And you can be here right now, and we are, obviously I'm passionate about this, we are here. And you're giving practical steps on how someone can
go from zero
and do what you want.
And you are an entrepreneur. You might not call yourself an entrepreneur, but you're an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
100%.
I try to be.
Yeah.
This guy owns 6 businesses outside of his 9 to 5 daily or 7 to 3, whatever, daily job. You're a hustler.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And doing things like committing to sleeping on the floor, a gym regimen, that's all stuff
A life of discipline.
A life of discipline that'll lead to a life of design.
Yeah.
Ever since you said life of design, I just think about it. That's really what
Live life by design instead of living life on default.
You got some bangers, dude. I downloaded that book you told me to.
The Straight to Hell.
Yep.
Did you enjoy it?
I've just started.
All right.
I have actually
wrote it?
started.
We're plugging. It's John
okay.
LaFarve or La something. It's called Straight to Hell, and it is kind of like consuming candy. It's an entertaining book. It's not necessarily about learning or growing or personal development, but it was really entertaining. It's about a banker in the middle of the banking crisis, or before it, in his life of excess and debauchery.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, it's great. No, it's great. It's a good book.
Yeah.
So why did you recommend it?
I thought he would enjoy it because he's in finance. I recommended it to you as well.
Mm.
Well, what really sold me on it was when you were telling me that this guy was living this extravagant life on the company card.
Oh, all the
And just
time.
to reiterate,
all of his
Yeah.
transactions.
Which is why I
Yeah.
have all of this.
So you can write
He's
it on.
talking
It's
about-
all, yeah.
He said, do you guys know what Nobu sushi is? Nobu
No.
is one of the most famous. So they only have it you can get it in Vegas, you can get it in Atlantis, but it's exclusive, it's high end, it's expensive, and it's just great sushi. Well, he likes to eat Nobu at lunch, but his lunch bill was more expensive than his company had allowances for lunch. So he would write 4 other people's name on the receipt just to pay for his lunch. And it's just the little things that he was.
And that makes it legal.
But does it make it ethical?
Oh, it was super unethical, but he never called it ethical. He'll tell you, I'm going straight to hell. Like that's the
So
whole
that's
point.
what the preface of the book is.
Yeah.
Is about how to find the loopholes in the financial system.
It's just about how he found the loopholes.
How he found.
And he talks that this wasn't
I just wanna learn the
specific
loopholes.
to him. This wasn't specific to him at all. This is the entire banking Wall Street culture. At least was.
It still is.
Still
It still is.
Yeah.
It's not. This has not changed.
No,
Might be out of frame.
I'm not out of the frame.
Perfect. No, I mean that's I definitely would check out that book. That sounds interesting,
Yeah.
especially if
It's-
you're saying the context of it's more entertainment than educational.
It's the only entertainment book that I have read in the last year that I can remember, at least off the top of my head. But it was great. It was entertaining. I couldn't put it down.
I feel you, dude. I don't
Can't
read
wait.
entertaining books either. Dude. The only one I've
Yeah.
ever read is The Alchemist. Other than that, it is
Which is still almost like it's
It's
good
right,
literature,
right.
yeah.
It's like it rides that line perfectly.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no, I'm big into. Are you into self development? Like you're into. You said
Absolutely.
you're the mind body
Personal
spirit thing.
development,
Personal.
self help. I like to call it personal development, but sometimes the lines get blurred.
I just call it building better habits.
Building
And
better
building better
habits.
That's a
That's
good
the
way.
name of this episode.
Yeah, there you go. Building better habits, de-blurring those lines.
Constantly. Everything you do, just make it better. Like if you're brushing your teeth, brush it faster. Like how do you accomplish it?
Yeah.
Or
Whoa. I was under the assumption that brushing your teeth was about the amount of time you spend brushing those teeth.
what do you mean?
Like you're supposed to spend at least
I don't know. I just threw that one out there.
Yeah, like there's a certain amount of time that you spend brushing your teeth. It's not about covering all the bases. You have to use the toothbrush for, let's call it 2 minutes.
But if I'm using a toothbrush like this for 2 minutes as opposed to going like this,
The amount of space that you cover could be maximized.
and
no doubt.
for the listeners, I was showing different speeds of using a toothbrush, which sounds awful right now. I wish you could see it. It sounds fucking awful. But we're trying to get to the bottom of this here.
But going back to brushing your teeth, how can you maximize the time? Brushing my teeth is one of the most boring parts of my day, and I fucking hate it. But if I throw in audio, I can learn. It's a little difficult to read while you brush your teeth, not impossible.
Same with traffic too.
Traffic's the same way. If I'm throwing on audio, podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube videos that I don't watch, now I have maximized another 2 minutes of the day. If I'm in traffic, now I have maximized another 20, 30 minutes of the day consuming information. We talked about passive versus active. It's not going to be the same as if I'm taking notes with a highlighter in a book, or taking notes and using a highlighter in the book. But if it's turning something that was otherwise completely unfruitful and unproductive into 20 or 30 minutes of more productive time that we can talk about on a podcast, that we can talk about in conversations with our cool, smart friends, or friends who share similar interests, now you've just flipped 20, 30 minutes of waste.
Yeah, and I'll give you a practical example of that. And I said earlier that I've always had a safety net, but that didn't mean everything always came easy to me. I mean, you live with me. You saw how hard I've worked to get there, right? One of the things that I did up until about 6-7 months ago was be an Uber driver. But I only did Uber Eats for 2 reasons. One, I didn't have to deal with people.
That's clutch.
Like, I know, right?
Clutch.
It's I don't want to deal with them unless I want to deal with them. Unless we're going to be friends or a customer or something. But if I'm just I don't want to be your taxi driver, right? And so I made it worth it though. I did Uber Eats, so I only had to pick up food, and I made it worth it by as soon as I got in the car and turned my Uber Eats app on, it was podcast only from that point on.
Yeah.
So even though I was making incrementally small amounts of money, I was still getting, I was essentially
value.
Yeah, exactly. And what I saw it as was I was getting paid to learn.
Yeah.
And that was like, I would listen to marketing podcasts. I'd listen to personal development podcasts. And, it's just that there's been very, things like that make it worth it. Like you said, that turn something unfruitful and make it fruitful.
Yeah, and that's it. Just building a better habit. It's like, all right, I'm going to have to do Uber. I'm going to do Uber Eats. Let's try to make it the best. Let's optimize the opportunity.
And I want to clarify too, the only people that confuse personal development with self-help don't practice personal development. It's a way of helping yourself, but it's building better habits.
That's why I love you guys. You guys have opened my eyes more on the spirit side, I would say. No, I would say more on the mental, on ways to progress mentally and to think more open-minded. So, you know me, before you guys, I was still driven because I've always known the road that I was going on, but I was achieving it in a different, meaner way, or say a more unhappy way. I was constantly angry. I was driven by hate. The hate to prove my father wrong, the hate to prove everybody wrong. And it wasn't until we actually saw this, and
that's big,
huge, game changer.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't until we sat down and watched The Secret that my entire life changed. I was like, wait a minute, you mean I don't have to be this mean asshole to get what I want? Like, it was like, whoa.
And that was crazy because you actually came into my life at that point, which was interesting because I remember it because I just decided that I only had one job my whole life that wasn't a serving job or Uber Eats, and I was an intern. It wasn't even a real job. And I remember the day I stopped doing that, I decided I was going to read The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I finished both those books. I told you about The Strangest Secret. And I had no idea, and you had no idea there was a documentary. You were just scrolling through Netflix one day. And I remember watching that with you, and we felt different.
We knew, this is it.
So that documentary, and for all those who don't know, and we've both talked about it a lot, so I'd love for you to give your interpretation on it. But it's the law of attraction. So, like I said, we talk about it all the time. Everyone knows what our perspectives on it are. But how do you see the law of attraction? What does that mean to you?
For me, it was more of life is going to continue going on, so why not see the good in it all the time versus seeing the good and always thinking the worst is going to happen. It's just think of the good and only focus on the good. And as long as you're doing that and you're doing what feels right, then you're going to be a much happier person. And so that radiated into my personal life. Like everyone, I would greet them nicer. I would choose the best approach. If something went the way that I wasn't expecting to or didn't want it to go, I would still approach it in a positive manner. And I saw all of the results, and it was just mind-boggling. It's like you can still achieve everything that you want to achieve. You can still get everything accomplished by doing it just a different way, a much happier way. Like I was still going to get there, but this way, everyone was affected in a positive way, and I was almost encouraged by other people to do it.
What was like a fundamental change in how you viewed things to make those the results?
You have to clarify a little bit.
Like how did you start looking at situations differently? Was it either I had to win and you had to lose, or was it and then this opened your eyes up to win-win type of deals, or what kind of fundamental changes in the perspectives you had that brought about these results of you being happier as you pursued relationships, happier as you pursued your dreams? What were those fundamental changes?
So for starters, I guess it was always whenever I thought about life and how I was going to make it, my biggest thought was I have to make it because I've got to prove my dad wrong. I've got my whole goal, I remember just being, hey, I'm going to, whenever I make it, when I graduate, I'm going to fly to Mexico. I'm going to find my father and be like, look, me and my mom made it without you. And so whenever I was thought about, when you think back on what are the results of what are the consequences of your actions, whether you're going to go forwards or backwards. When you think backwards, you think, no, I'm going to keep going because I don't want to let my father be right. Rather than looking at it that way, it was like, look, life is what it is. Like, yeah, you can keep being mad at your father, but your father's not even here. He doesn't even care. Like, why are you thinking about that? Maybe think about how much, if you fail, you would let your mother down or something like that, and be like, look, I've already made my mother happy. My mother's dream was for me to go to college and graduate. I've already accomplished that. So why keep thinking that there's more and driven by this anger of like still proving your dad wrong when it's like, no, why don't you just focus on the next step, which is like just think about when your mom has that house.
So you would say what you replaced with
all the negative thoughts.
Anger and emotion of gratification, you replaced with appreciation and gratitude for what you do have.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of focusing on what I was going to lose, I just focused on what I could gain.
Don't focus on what you're going to lose. Focus on what you can gain. That's awesome. I mean, you've pretty much nailed it all. I mean, I think if I'm listening to this episode and I'm stuck in a feedback loop of a 9 to 5, regardless of if I have a safety net or what my upbringing is, there are practical things you can do to automate your life and take those steps forward. So I guess if you could tell anyone in that position, right? So the position is pretty clear at this point. It's the position of I'm stuck in the feedback loop of a 9 to 5. I've got people that are reliant on me maintaining that. How do I go and pursue my dreams while keeping everyone else's glass of lemonade full? What are 5 practical things that like you could dispel upon everyone listening and watching?
Well, first is don't be afraid to make mistakes. That was the biggest game changer for me, was that I was always too afraid to take that first step because I was always afraid of rejection. And once I took that first step and said, you know what, you just got to take it. Let's see what happens. And I realized the results, maybe they wouldn't have been what I wanted, but after taking it, it wasn't so bad. So I'd say definitely make the mistakes, but learn from them. So you don't repeat those mistakes. I think I'm more guided by everything that I did wrong than everything that I'm doing right.
So number 1 would be fail fast.
Fail
often, fail early.
Yeah.
Look forward to failures.
Look forward to failures.
Because if you're not failing, you're not really going anywhere.
And don't be scared to fail.
Yeah.
So all right, cool.
But also you need to have a clear vision of what your goals are. So for me, it was always take care of the family, take care of my mom. And so now that I've built that revenue stream, which is my job, and I see that within a 3-4 year period, that's already, no matter what, I could fail all these my entrepreneurship could be a complete failure, but my backup is still taking care of my mom, still taking care of me, still going to my 401k. I'm set. Like from the average point standard of the average person, I'm killing it. Now, I'm able to focus on these, but I'm able to do that because I've already listed what my goals are. The next thing would be definitely focus on your health. The amount of time is very important. What I've realized is I've kind of narrowed down how much time that I have to spend for certain things. I've been able to prioritize. I guess that's the word, prioritize. And rather than thinking about getting rid of habits, I always used to think of, oh, I need to quit this, or I'm just going to quit, I'm going to quit eating Taco Bell. Rather than thinking of that, I'm just saying, hey, how about I just eat Taco Bell 1 day less this month? And then the next month, I'm like, how about I eat it again 1 day less than this month? And slowly, and now, rarely eat it, rarely, don't go out.
You mean to tell me that you were eating Taco Bell at least once a week, maybe
3 to
twice
4
a week?
times a week.
3 to 4 times a week?
Like Taco Bell or Wendy's. Wendy's would be a good lunch one. I would order like the patties, and then I would order the chicken. Yeah. And smush them together. It's so good.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So good. But yeah.
Cool. So that's 3. We got fail fast, set goals, prioritize health. I got a good 4th one that you mentioned on this podcast would be automate your life. I know Elon Musk, for example, disseminates his day down every 5 minutes. He's got his day broken down into 5 minutes. And if you can automate a system that you can stay disciplined in like that, automate your bill pay. So you were explaining how when you get paid from work, it's automated into your investments, your 401k.
Well, I would say that still goes more into more prioritizing, because that's actually something that the Secret actually showed me, where they were like, hey, instead of worrying about those bills that you have to pay, how about you just set your auto pay up and not worry about it and just let it get drafted out of your account? And I was like, why haven't I thought of that, right? So I actually started applying that concept to my daily life in everything that I do. So for example, cleaning. You know me, I am a super clean, super neat person. And so I spend hours a week doing that. And so I realized, okay, I could spend 3 hours doing that a week, or I could spend that time day trading those 3 hours and possibly make $80, $90 an hour.
Which is exactly how much it costs to get somebody to come
clean my
the
house.
apartment once every couple weeks.
Yeah, once a month, really.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, now that's done. And slowly I focused on, all right, now my finance, all my bills. I said, okay, let me figure this out. Okay, well, obviously my bills get paid at this date every month. So I just automated all of that. Boom, that's done. Now I don't have to worry about money.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, I have wired it through all the accounts, and that's a macro perspective. But for your everyday person, you have a bank account and you have bills. Set it up to auto pay, set your budget up, and you already know. You know every month these bills are coming. So just set it aside, get done, and focus on the things that you want to do.
What was the name of the thing 2 episodes ago?
Systematically systemizing systems.
Yeah. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and slowly I'm just, right now I have to cook. I hate cooking. I'm not able to.
I'm right there with you.
Really? Yeah, it's a pain. It's a process.
Yeah.
So I can't wait, because that'll be the next step, is to hire or get my meals made for me.
Yeah.
Then laundry, things like that. So now you've eliminated all of your day-to-day chores.
Yeah.
So when you come home, the only thing you have to worry about is going to the gym and bettering your life. That's it. Or improving. You don't have to keep doing these redundant tasks that you don't enjoy doing.
Essentially auto pay your priorities.
That's it.
No, that makes sense. And then, okay, so number 5, last one.
We talked about, let's see.
Would you be willing to write a blog post for us based off of these 5?
Sure.
Jordan Peterson did 12 Rules for Life, and it turned into a best-selling book.
We'll have the link right here.
Yeah.
Click on it.
Smash that link button and check out his blog post.
All right, and then so what would number 5 be?
Let me look at them real quick.
Yeah, good luck reading them. I'll read them aloud. But
Okay.
fail fast, set goals, prioritize health, and then systematize your life. AKA auto pay priorities.
Another thing would be build strong relationships.
Boom.
I would not be able to do what I do if I wasn't able to come here and vent to you guys.
No, absolutely. You're the guy Chris on our last podcast said your net worth is your network is your net worth.
Yeah, it's you guys are everything. You guys are my driving. You guys make me realize that I'm at the right place.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're at the right point in our lives.
Think about how cool it is, though, that it is a Friday night and we got a little collective hanging out, doing work, putting in extra hours. I think that's neat.
So
we've got enough people working here where we could just keep rotating in and keep doing these podcasts all night. There's just something about people who want to hustle coming and hustling together, and that's why places like Atlanta Tech Village, and we touched it early in that first episode about coffee houses. Can you briefly run that down?
The idea that coffee is largely responsible for the Enlightenment. Before coffee, everybody was drinking watered down alcohol or alcohol down water and beer, whatever it was, to decrease the amount of bacteria in their drinking system, in their drink, whatever it was that they were drinking. So coffee comes around, and it's half the idea that people are coming out of a haze and getting energized on this. It's a potent stimulant. Like Starbucks is the world's largest drug dealer, but then they come to the coffee houses where they drink coffee and disseminate ideas. That goes back to that idea of meritocracy.
Yep.
Then they start realizing, well, we need more art. Well, we don't need a king. Well, and then as the ideas circulate, it ultimately gives birth to the rise of the modern world. You have coffee to thank for
that's interesting.
a lot of that.
That's crazy.
So it really
There's a world before coffee and a world after coffee.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And so it just comes back and adds another dimension to what happens when you get the right people. What kind of feedback loop could you be caught in before you realize, do we need a king? And other kind of thoughts like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's interesting, and that's I also am very appreciative that I have such a group of close friends that is coming to be here, and we're all pursuing the growth of mind, body, spirit, and I think that your network is your net worth. It is your happiness. It is you're very much a product of your environment.
I fuck with my feedback group.
Yeah.
I fuck with y'all.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, we fuck with our feedback group so much, we had to make a podcast to hit everyone up, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is nothing we're escaping from except for there's nothing we're trying to escape from in our environments right now. And that's why it's great to be together, and that's even better reason why we're here to give back some of this information, is because we just want to help everyone grow.
That's the important thing, is that when you're building these relationships, you need to learn their value so that you can give back. I will never forget where I come from. Like, I'm a guy from the streets who became a redneck who became educated. Like, that's where I come from. But I've met a lot of relationships along the way where people believed in me. Like, I have some friends from back home where, dude, I was the biggest fuck up. And these guys are like, no, I got you. You're our brother. We got you, and those people I will never forget. But I understand their value. Those people chose a different, more simple lifestyle, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I'm different, and I had to go out and pursue my own things in my way. But not only that, these people see me as the person who went out and went on beyond the city, beyond the small town. Exactly. So understand the value that you give, and make sure that you always give back to them, because those people rely on you.
Absolutely. And always try and be above the average. If you want to live, and remember, like, we know that everyone who listens and watches lives different lives. But if you're in Mo's position, or Kai's position, and you're in a consistent feedback loop of a 40-hour work week where you've got people relying, and you want to automate, and you want to do all these things, you want to feel fast, you want to set goals, you want to prioritize your health, you want to auto pay all your priorities, and you want to build a strong network, I think the first thing, it's coming straight from the horse's mouth, is always be above average. I mean, would you say that's fair?
It's not hard.
It's not
It's
hard,
not really hard.
but it's important to do.
Effort
it
doesn't
right.
cost a fucking dime. Doesn't cost anything.
Never. School, all of it. Wherever you're at, if you're studying, it's not that hard. It's just everything is being shaped around the weakest person in the room. So all you gotta do is stay ahead of them. You're above average. Everything around is being shaped against the one kid that got picked on. The one kid that got cut. The one kid that didn't win. So it's very easy to stay above average now.
Yeah, we talked about participation trophies in one of the last episodes.
I don't want to talk about it.
Another conversation for another time, but no, so there's
I could go all day.
right. There is hope for anyone who wants to do anything. Don't think because you're bogged down by your job or living in a consistent feedback loop with the wrong environment as you may perceive it, or whatever it is. Just know that if you do a few things, again, the 5 of them, they'll be in a blog. We'll have the list. It'll be detailed, but again, that's fail fast, set goals, prioritize health, auto pay priorities, have a strong network, and always have the mentality to be a little above average, and you get to be in a position where you have everything that you planned on and everything you want to dream of getting. And I really appreciate you popping on this podcast and giving a vulnerable, transparent story of where you come from, what you're doing, and how you plan to keep going.
Anything for the fam.
That's right.
Keep
baby.
going, boys.
Let's get it. Hey, thank you all for listening, watching. Clint, take us out, brother.
Everybody, it would be incredibly easy to get bogged down and determine that you're the victim of your life. When you're the victim, it relieves you of some sense of responsibility. When you take ownership for your position, wherever you are, and whether it's your fault or not, when you own it, you take that responsibility from a quote-unquote the other, and you bring it onto yourself and into your life. Not being afraid to fail, having a clear vision, focusing on health, automating your life, they're not something that happen necessarily overnight, but if you're taking daily incremental steps to make a better life, building better habits, building better habits, you can't help but improve. That doesn't mean you won't face setbacks from time to time, but if you're building better habits every day, you're going to improve and your life's going to see a major difference, and you too may get out there and hustle. I hope everybody does hustle and has a great day.
Where can we find you?
See me at Kydo Spector Instagram. Go to www.livenewrich.com.
Can you spell Kydo Spector?
Yeah, it's actually, you can just type in
Well, it'll be right here. We'll put it right here.
Spector.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. And your website is what?
www.livenewrich.com.
How do you spell Kai?
KY.
KY. All right.
Well, there we go. And again, you guys can find us at HSTLUP on Instagram. Hustle Up. Our website will soon have all this blog content from everything we've talked about in our podcast, where you can go more in depth and see other dimensions and just beyond the surface of what was talked about. Appreciate y'all listening, watching.
Visit our website, also hustlup.com, HSTLUP, just like the Instagram.com. Thank you.